So, like I said, my name is Griffin Johnson. I'm a meat cutter at Giant Eagle. It's been a while since I've talked about anything that's happened as a renter, and I think that I'm getting the opportunity to do that today, which is awesome. I grew up in Meadville. I went to East End Elementary, and I ended up moving to Conneaut Lake, and was made fun of all the time for being biracial, and as simple-minded as that sounds, it was like the worst thing that could have happened at the time. I think it was, at the end of ninth grade, I got removed from the school and ended up going to Bethesda for expunged charges now, but they were BS at the time. And I'm going to Bethesda, and I got out in 70-something days, and then I went to Erie and was in high school in Erie for a while. And the other side of the spectrum there got, I was the white boy, they called me. So I went from being, the fly in the buttermilk to being a different person up in Erie. Went to college for a bit. I got about 2 years in, and I got pretty depressed and moved out, or dropped out, and then moved in with my father. And that was a crazy experience itself. I'd never lived my whole life, and then for about 5 months there, and I finally got my own place in October. So I was I think I was 20 years old when I think 20 years old when I got my first place, and kind of had a weird rental experience there. It was a small one apartment place about as big as this living room and bathroom. That was it. Yeah, that was in Meadville.
How many roads must a man walk down before you call him a man? How many seas must the white dove sail before she sleeps in the sand? Yes, and how many times must the cannonballs fly before they're forever banned? The answer, my friend, is blowing in the wind. The answer is blowing in the wind.
Housing in Meadville right now, there's a lot to be addressed. I think we're not very unique in that housing is an issue here. We have a high renter rate, especially for a kind of small town and a rural town like ours. So 60% of the people in Meadville rent their homes. And on top of that, they're renting homes that are old and only getting older. Most of our houses were built before 1960, and most of those were built before 1940s or something like that. So with that comes lots of maintenance issues, which again means that the people living in the houses that they call home rely on other people to maintain those houses. It's not an issue with renters themselves. It's just it just means, right, there's a small handful of people that own a lot of the houses in town. The rates of renting houses are increasing, but people's wages aren't increasing to keep up. So more and more people are having a harder and harder time paying rent and paying for the places to live. About 25% of Meadville lives at or below the poverty level. And then probably a large percentage of folks are just above that.
How many ears must one man have before he can hear people cry? Yes, and how many deaths will it take till he knows that too many people have died?
So I got involved in 2019 as part of a city council race. It was a campaign for 2 open spots on city council. The candidates were Autumn Vogel and Larry McKnight. And I was pretty heavily involved in sort of the background of their campaign and coordinating canvassing efforts and that sort of thing?
One of the three kind of main issues that we ran on was safe, dignified, affordable housing. This rental inspection and registration program, we're calling it a rental licensing program, was kind of the flagship policy piece around that issue. For decades, a systematic citywide inspection of rental properties has been recommended to City Council and was never instituted, was never acted on, in large part because City Council has been landlords forever or real estate brokers. So they were folks who had an interest in not having an inspection program.
There's people who have a say that is heard just because of their position. You know what I mean? And there's people whose say is ignored also because of their position. You know, and I'm not here for that.
What the ordinance would address is a really basic level of concern, and that's just to make sure that every single rental property in the city is meeting a basic health and safety standard. At the core of the kind of landlord and tenant relationship is a power relationship. Landlords have power over their tenants because they basically get to determine who has a place to live and who doesn't. If you say something or do something that upsets the landlord, for the most part, they've got the power to kick you out of the house, not renew your lease. So there are other issues that kind of center on that unequal power dynamic that the ordinance won't necessarily address directly. But again, what it will do is it will take the burden off renters who might otherwise have to go to their landlord if their heat isn't working or if there's a hole in the roof and demand that the landlord fix it. Well, if there's no law in place to make sure that that gets done, it's kind of up to you as a renter to make that complaint to your landlord and hope that they don't get mad and retaliate against you.
My colleagues on City Council talk about transparency and inclusiveness, but this particular ordinance was anything but inclusive or transparent. The people who you should be relying upon for information and background were pretty much ignored, that being lenders, insurance people, appraisers, brokers, and investors. After all, these are the people who are investing in your town, and they ought to have some input. The sad thing is we could have had a rental inspection ordinance that would have been acceptable to the overwhelming majority of landlords, but they were simply not given a full opportunity to have input into the process. There are some other issues too, and the problem with the ordinance is that you don't address tenant behavior. Okay, the way ordinances are drawn, the owner of the property is cited. So, for example, if you rented a property and your lease says you are responsible to mow the lawn and shovel the sidewalk, if you don't do that, the landlord is cited, even though that is a provision of your lease. So if you have an aggressive program where inspectors literally pick the low-hanging fruit, sidewalks are an easy thing. I take a look at it and say, oh, you're in violation. Or the grass is too high. Oh, you're in violation. Okay, and you say, well, gee, I wrote up 87 people. Yeah, you wrote up 87 people, and you cause rents to go up for things like there's no handrail on your front steps.
In 2020, we found out we're going to be having a child. And our apartment was really small. It was an efficiency. So it was about as big as this kitchen with a little bedroom in the back connected to a bathroom. And we had this little puppy that we weren't even supposed to have in our apartment. So we needed a bigger place. And Bella knew the landlord of this apartment that was for rent. And it was $500 a month. We thought that was amazing. We were gonna have a bigger family. We needed a spot and dog friendly. So we move in, and I think about a month or two went by, and all of a sudden Isabella started getting these bites on her, and we couldn't figure out what they were. We were freaking out, and it kept happening, and then we found one of the bugs, and it ended up being a bed bug. So we go and talk to the landlord, and I'm ready to get an exterminator. I'm ready to take this place apart. And he shuts the idea down. He says that we can get this spray that he has, because he solved this problem before, and this spray, and it'll get rid of them. I'm like, okay. So we spray this spray. About a month goes by, and the problem seemed like it was less, but she was still getting bit, and at this point freaking out because she's pregnant, about 6 months pregnant at this time. About to have a baby, and she's getting bit by bed bugs. And we get the spray, and I tell him, this really isn't working, and we started getting frustrated with each other, and we're out on the front porch arguing, and he's like, I didn't get these bugs here are not my problem. You know what I mean? I'm doing what I can to help you, and I didn't bring them here, so this is on you. And I argued with him that, it's possible that downstairs the neighbor had an infestation, and he didn't want to follow through with that. We had all kinds of stuff that didn't add up, like getting the exterminator coming in after dealing with this problem and calling code enforcement to get him to do something about it. The exterminator comes in and finds one casing of a shedded bed bug on our back of our couch, and that's it in our entire apartment. And he goes downstairs, and the scene that he described when he searched the bedroom of our neighbors downstairs was horrific. And these bugs had been tormenting my wife and I, and fast forward a little bit, we had our son, and all of a sudden he's getting, a little bump on him, and it's just like, it was unbelievably difficult to get this man to help us get rid of this problem that we hadn't even created, we moved into, And I just couldn't believe how difficult it was to reach out to code enforcement and to get run around and not have somebody to talk to that cared about me having bed bugs, because, I'm a human being. It's like, if you're not rich and can pay for everything, then you just have to sit there and deal with it. And I get that, but it's like, there's people all over this city, and not to mention the whole world, who are suffering from bed bugs. And I mean, that's something that could easily be fixed with landlords caring about the properties. If your tenants are uncomfortable with bed bugs and you don't do something about it, I mean, that's horrible. You know what I mean? If you don't want to help them just because they're poor, that doesn't make sense to me. And the worst thing about that, we moved out, and we had gotten the ERAP program, Emergency Rental Assistance Program, where the Center for Family Services paid for like 6 months of our rent. We moved out of that apartment April 1st, and he claimed that we lived there until June and collected $2,175, stating we lived there. That could have been used towards this rent. It's just, everybody's trying to nickel and dime. They're trying to scrape as much money as they can. They can go to bed at night because they don't have a bed bug problem or a leaky roof. You know what I mean? That the landlord said he was going to fix last week. You know what I mean? Yeah.
I think some of the stories that kind of stand out is just getting to know the living conditions for a lot of folks, especially folks who are lower income. People are dealing with a lot of serious issues, everything from holes in the roof with leaks coming down the walls or the light fixtures, broken staircases, no locks on the doors, heating that doesn't work, plumbing that doesn't work.
A lot of people, really, like I said, aren't heard, and They're disenchanted by the politics in the area, and they don't see any young people that care and are trying to make a change. And it kind of makes them hopeless.
The program itself, I don't know everything about it. You know what I mean? But I know what it's trying to do. You know, and there I'm sure there's things that could be, given and taken from that. But it needs, that's the direction we need to go. And it's not going to start anywhere else but with this program.
What I think none of us really anticipated was the amount of reaction, the kind of conservative backlash.
In America, real estate has been a means by which poor, working class people have been able to achieve a piece of the American dream. And there have been people who have become wealthy in real estate. I don't begrudge them that. Do we attack those people because they had an idea, they pursued it, they gave their all, and they benefited from it? But I sense that there is that kind of a feeling about landlords, and not just here in Meadville, but in a lot of areas.
But nonetheless, I think when you start to challenge the people with money and property, they get upset. And they tell you things like, well, what business do you have running the city, and that sort of thing.
In working on this program, the people who showed up a lot of the times and were loudest were against the program. And it took a lot of commitment to weather through that.
Your rental inspection program will be a failure of epic proportions, and I guarantee it.
I just wanted to say I oppose it.
I am not in favor of the program.
To strongly object to the implementation of a rental unit registration and licensing program.
There's no reason to be doing this if we don't need it.
I oppose the rental inspection program.
It would have been really easy to just cave and give in and not push the inspection program forward, but we knew it needed to happen.
Majority of the people opposed it. Rental inspection program, same thing. Trying to cram it down their throats. You people are acting like dictators.
The conflicts that we're facing in Meadville is because people think that they're better than, and the people that feel like people think they're better than them. That's the whole presence in Meadville, is territorial. And a lot of people, if you're territorial, you're not going to be nice to the person you see in the street. It is kind of sad, and there's no real presence of fellowship, or there's not a lot of respect, for everybody that we see.
You have completely 100% negative impact on this city since the day you guys took office. And you would all the time. Jim speaks very intelligently, has the knowledge, and Autumn, you cut him off almost every single time he tries to speak. That is absolutely rude of you.
Specifically, we were elected by the people who live here, right? Those are the people
the
who
college.
Those specific.
You busted the college.
Councilmember statements, sir.
She did not interrupt you. Give her the same respect.
We were represented, like I was saying, by the people who live and vote in the city of Meadville. Those people are majority renters. Those people are majority living in poverty, don't own property in this city, right? Those are the people that elected us for the things that we ran on: safe, affordable, dignified housing.
And one of the strategies that some of the landlords devised was to create a form letter that they could send to their renters, and that letter would tell them that rents would go up $20, $50, even $100 if this program were implemented. Now keep in mind, they never settled on a number because the program did not exist. It still does not exist. They didn't know the cost, but the facts didn't matter because the point of that letter was to scare and intimidate the renters into opposing the program. The actual cost of this program, the correct information, is it's looking like it's going to be a little over $3 a month. Of course, it's up to the landlords in this room and elsewhere if they want to pass that cost on to the renters, but renters should know that the cost of this program is $3 a month. And if your landlord is raising your rent more than $3 a month, supposedly to cover the cost of this program, that is cost that they are adding on top of that.
Some tenants don't pay rent. Some tenants are horrible tenants. Some tenants trash apartments. That should be counted. You know what I mean? It's not just about the landlords doing everything. The tenants gotta want to live healthy too. There's too many of us who are on the fence about what we want to do for ourselves and our community. You know, we don't do anything. We're like just complacent. You know, we believe that we're settled. This is who we're gonna be, and don't try to achieve more. That's not it for me. You know, if you don't go to the political science in college and learn about it, you know, you're not going to. You're not going to become a politician or want to be. You know, people just think that having a vote is enough. No, we need to have people with thoughts that are, you know, beneficial to the future of the people. We just need more people that are young, that are thoughtful and diligent, because we could definitely make a difference, you know what I mean, in politics. You know, I don't want to be a politician, but these people are screwing everybody over. You know what I mean? It's kind of like evil only succeeds when the good man does nothing. You know, I don't know who said that, but I remember it.
My position at Crawford County United is a canvasser. So the canvasser's job is to develop relationships with people and rapport rather, and then ask what problems do they see in their community that they'd like local officials to pay attention to. I want people to understand that the reason that I'm out here knocking on doors is to literally understand how you feel, and getting people to sympathize and understand how others feel and what they're going through. Everybody's suffering, you know. I definitely want to establish a presence of empathy, you know, and understanding for folks in Meadville. Bringing everybody together with the common ground is really what I'm after, and doing that by, you know, saying, hey, like, I'm listening to you. You know what I mean? It might not be the most important thing to everybody, but to some people who haven't been listened to in 10 years, you know, a person like me comes around and just talks to them, you know, and sees what problems they face. It's a different kind of satisfaction.
So to people in Meadville who want to contribute to this effort, I'd say show up. People don't show up. And the people that do show up, it makes a huge difference.
We need to be more a part of the community and I guess politics. You know what I mean? Because that's the only way we're gonna get problem solved. Ain't that right? Problem solved.
Our house is a very, very, very fine house with 2 cats in the yard. Life used to be so hard. Now everything is easy 'cause of you. And now, la 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 la. It's a very, very, very fine house with 2 cats in the yard. Life used to be so